Welcome back to Historical Context. Today we continue our series on Virginia during the Restoration. Today we start in February of 1678, where Thomas Culpepper is now the colonial governor of Virginia, and he's operating out of England. He has yet to come over and check things out. While the Bacon Rebellion was long put down, political instability is remaining in the colony. That February, a total account for spending of the Virginia government was released, and this was something that had been pushed for a while, but finally something came out, and it totaled 6,040 pounds, presumably for the year. Of that, 3,300 pounds, a little over half, was for maintaining 2 companies of men. The governor received 1,000 pounds and the deputy governor 600. The spending was determined to be 212 pounds higher than Jamaica. In March, Colonel Morrison writes another letter where he reiterates that rebellion will once again start once the troops have been sent home. In this letter, he adds that troops are beginning to desert their service. So now, regardless of what anybody thinks they should be doing, now they're deserting. That's a problem. Morrison also expresses that the commissioners in Virginia are becoming useless. These are the people England sent over to investigate. A couple days after this letter was written, notice was sent of pay of 100 pounds per company, or 20 shillings per man, to be delivered to the military. I'm not sure if this was a sticking issue that caused the desertion or not, but it's a fairly big point to be having right at the time of desertion becoming an issue. So I wouldn't be surprised if lack of pay or delayed pay was a big part of the desertion. On April 17th, Thomas Ludwell writes to England stating that he believes natives will once again attack the colony if England were to go to war with France. He also added that he wished Lord Culpepper would arrive in the colony soon. He is asking for leadership to be there and present. Ludwell's comment about war with France causing native attacks basically now insinuates that a lot of natives are siding more with the French, and obviously there's a segment of history later on, French and Indian War, where we deal with that. But it appears to be showing its roots much, much sooner than that. On June 10th, Governor Culpepper writes that he believes all standing troops should be paid off and discharged. It's a pretty bold statement for somebody who isn't there. In that same month, the treasurer of the colony became concerned that he may be sued if bills of exchange totaling 1,363 pounds, which had come due, weren't funded. Basically, the colony is approaching default. Now, it isn't that the money wasn't there. It was that England had ordered the payments halted. The Committee of Foreign Plantations approved payments, and an order was drafted lifting the stop payment order. So Virginia does not default for now. At the end of June, the Queen of the Pamunkey wrote to Colonel Morrison and assured him that any rebellion amongst the natives would have nothing to do with her tribe, and she continued to pledge allegiance to England. In August, we see a different discontent arising in the colony. William Sherwood writes back to England that the late Governor Berkeley's allies are giving Colonel Jeffreys a hard time. The colonel was the interim governor and is still kind of serving in a leadership capacity because Culpepper hasn't come over yet. Sherwood says the faction led by Governor Berkeley's widow, Philip Ludwell, Thomas Ballard, Colonel Edward Hill, and Major Robert Beverly will hold up any progress Culpepper tries to make in governance. Colonel Morrison, in an October letter, questions the intent of the General Assembly for not opposing the commissioners. I'm beginning to sense that it's a civilian versus military factions dividing up the colony. In December, Governor Culpepper is called before the Committee of Trade and Plantations, that's back in England, to defend the higher spending of the Virginia colony. He's not even there. He's never shown up. His reasoning is simple. The colony is more vast than Jamaica by comparison. Also in December, a proposal document was drafted in England and sent for Virginia to give guidance on as to how the colony should move forward. Let's have a look at some of the things that were in that document. Agreed only but 2 foot companies instead of 3. That there be one sufficient fort erected there in the most convenient place to secure shipping, whereby the king may be safe from rebellion. That there be towns built there, one on each great river if possible. A body of laws compiled in England and sent by Lord Culpepper under the seal of England to be approved by the House of Burgesses. So they want to see all of the government records. The repealing of £4 damages for defaming the governor. That was a Colonel Jeffreys law. A general act of indemnity be sent for all rebels. This is still a problem with these rebels and forgiving them. All monies remaining owed to soldiers be paid. The proposal added that should another war break out, Virginia would have sufficient convoys to conduct trade, although the specific timelines and compositions were not disclosed. Word gets to England in January of 1679 that Colonel Herbert Jeffreys had died. And this comes out when Lieutenant Edward Rouse petitions the king for a promotion. So the way they find out is Lieutenant Rouse sends them a letter saying, could you promote me to Colonel Jeffreys' position because he has died. Also in January, the Committee of Foreign Plantations prepares a draft of a commission for Lord Culpepper, who is expected to leave at any moment. The Committee of Foreign Plantations then makes changes to the Council of Virginia in February based on who will get in the way of restitution being served to those Governor Berkeley wronged. So it sounds to me like some of Governor Berkeley's former allies are being replaced. Later that month, the committee drafts an act of indemnity for the former rebels and sends it to the Attorney General. That's in England to then send over to Virginia. The debating over Lord Culpepper's commission continues into the month of March as the king weighed in requesting the building of a large-scale fort to be part of the commission, along with the rebuilding of Jamestown, and any members of the council who are displaced are welcome to be elected to the assembly, and that's essentially an olive branch for the Berkeley allies being dismissed. Yet nothing is finalized, and Lord Culpepper remains in England. In April, the General Assembly meets in Virginia. In the first order of business, the Assembly acknowledges it had received several complaints about high fees being charged by county clerks. This was likely due to a non-functioning colonial government. So now county clerks are stepping in, and they're funding things by charging people, and that's leading to complaints. The Assembly says it will take up the matter in its next meeting, but it also provided permission for local governments to clear the rivers of logs and trees that may inhibit ships. The Assembly also sent a letter to the king requesting a delay in payments to the crown to help the colony. So is it okay if we don't pay England for a little while? I wonder how that's going to go over. Finally, in late 1679, Lord Culpepper receives his directions for his governorship of Virginia. The directives were financial in nature, where England wanted the colony to receive back pay for all the soldiers, and they wanted Culpepper to collect all of the delayed rents from landowners. They also requested that Culpepper speak to the General Assembly and acquaint them with his orders. In September, the king writes a letter to Culpepper stating he is needed in Virginia and orders him to leave immediately. He's set to leave on the ship Oxford frigate, but for whatever reason, he fails to go. This does not sit well with King Charles. In December, he writes a letter of displeasure to Culpepper for not leaving and is disappointed in what he calls his neglect of duty. The king orders a special trip to take Culpepper to Virginia, and the cost of that trip is deducted from Culpepper's salary. Wow. Culpepper finally makes his way to Virginia, and in June of 1780, he delivers a speech to the General Assembly. He explains his delay in arriving as being, quote, detained in other services to His Majesty. Let's have a look at more of his speech. During my absence in England, I have not been totally unserviceable unto you, so I shall always continue my utmost endeavors for your welfare, not only by hindering oppressions, asserting your liberties, and distributing equal and speedy justice, but by improving to the utmost all opportunities that may contribute to your prosperity, the effect of which you shall rather find by decades than any more words on that subject. Lord Culpepper is quite the politician just from that statement there. He goes on to commend the General Assembly for its actions during his absence and informs them that he brings with him 3 acts from the Parliament of England. The first is a free and general pardon to anyone who participated in the rebellion. The second is an act of naturalization, which Culpepper does not go into detail about, but says it will encourage more people to come to the colony. I'm guessing the act of naturalization is designed to steer people away from indentured servitude. That's the general sense I'm getting. To make it easier for somebody to come over and not have debts to work off and to become a citizen of the colony. The third act is a continuation of the 2 pence per hogshead tax on tobacco payable to England. Culpepper goes on to discuss the execution of getting all soldiers paid using the auditor, the justices of the court, and the landlords, and by landlords he means officers. Culpepper next mentions the expectation of the crown for the colony to stay current on its quit rents, and those are the land rents. Culpepper then states that he has brought gifts for the native tribes in the area, and that he looks forward to being briefed on the colony's affairs with them. He states that if there are any difficulties, he would work to help resolve them. He concludes by requesting an account of all debts be taken and efforts be made to collect them. So how are colonists going to react to Governor Culpepper now in Virginia and his directives coming from England? We'll find out next time on Historical Context.